Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Greg Keogh, the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida. Here with me on the podium to my right is Jamila Davis. She's the Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Small Business Administration Office of the Inspector General. And to my left is Melissa Ventresca. She is also the Special Agent in charge for the Federal Bureau of Investigation here in Tampa. What we'd like to announce today is the indictment of 11 people involved in a sophisticated, coordinated COVID fraud scheme that defrauded the public of an excess of $2.2 million. What we have before you is an indictment of 10 individuals and who are the conspirators and one solo indictment by himself. This particular transaction involves the scheme that defrauded the Small Business Administration using COVID-19 programs. As you see from your indictment and from your press release, the person at the center of this was Cheryl Breus, B-R-E-U-S. She not only obtained fraudulent loans for herself to the tune of about $800,000, but she also received kickbacks from her other 9 co-conspirators to the tune of approximately $250,000. Just taking back for 1 second and explaining for you for a moment exactly what these small business loans are. The first one is an economic injury disaster loans. They came in, that program came in and was implemented to assist businesses to do a variety of things, not only make payroll, but to keep the companies running while the COVID crisis was ongoing. The second loan offering was Paycheck Protection Program. And what that was designed to do was to ensure that employers kept employees on the payroll during the COVID crisis. Suffice it to say that what these programs were set up to do was to help small businesses that we all know were struggling during the pandemic. What these individuals did was they took over $2.2 million away from small businesses that were trying to make it through a very difficult time. They went through this through a variety of different aspects and a variety of different loan applications. None of it, or very little of it, was true. They used inactive, dormant companies with minimal operations and put claims in with the Small Business Administration to support these loan claims. In those applications to the SBA, they said we were providing health care, transportation, food services. Let me say this, if they were operating at all, it was a very, very, very little in the line of services, and some of these entities that put in for these applications weren't providing services at all. In these false applications, what did they say? Well, they tried to make the SBA believe that these were real businesses, that these were successful operations. They weren't. They lied in their forms on the number of employees involved, the revenues of the business, the costs incurred by the business. All of it was fraudulent. Suffice it to say, if these companies had any business, any employees, they had nothing close to what was set forth in these applications to the SBA. They filed false tax returns that they had never filed with the IRS, but false tax return forms to attempt to support their fraudulent applications. And when they did receive these monies, when they did receive these $2.2 million payouts, they never poured that money back into their businesses. They used it for personal gain. In short, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we have seen some of this crushing fraud throughout the United States, but these individuals subverted the purpose of the COVID relief program that was designed to help small industry and small businesses make it through the pandemic. Through the life of these loans, these programs, the SBA has dispersed over $1.2 trillion in loans. Unfortunately, about $200 billion of that is potentially fraud. And we will continue to prosecute these matters as these cases unfold. Historically, this office, in conjunction with the SBA, Office of Inspector General, and with the FBI, have prosecuted in excess of 100 people for fraud-related, COVID loan, fraud-related activities. And we will continue to do that. In those prosecutions, there have been prosecutions for over $100 million. We will not stop in pursuing this. We will not stop in pursuing these cases. We will do everything in our power to bring money that was taken from the United States people and bring it back to where it belongs, to the United States people. We will continue to work with the SBA and the FBI to pursue these matters. And if, without any further ado, I'd like to bring the SBA ASAC up to talk about this for one moment. Jamila?
Good morning, everybody. I want to begin by thanking our partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office and U.S. Attorney Greg Kehoe for organizing today's press conference. While 2020 seems like a lifetime ago now, we all remember the personal fear and financial uncertainty that accompanied the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to those concerns, the federal government tapped the SBA to administer its disaster recovery program to ensure that businesses can meet payroll and remain operational. In that chaos, panic, and despair, accompanied with that catastrophic event, some people chose to enrich themselves by misleading the government. Some people allowed themselves to believe that pandemic relief funds were free money. Nothing could be further from the truth. These are not victimless crimes. The ultimate victim for each and every case is the American taxpayer, period. When individuals defraud federal programs, they are stealing from the American people. Diverting funds meant to help legitimate businesses and individuals recover from a crisis. Because of the support of the United States Attorney's Office in the Middle District of Florida and the FBI, we now have this unique opportunity for the SBA OIG to speak directly to the community. We know that although the pandemic itself is over, holding individuals responsible for the receipt of fraudulent pandemic relief funds is not. This type of fraud has a special statute of limitation of 10 years. Therefore, our investigations are not done. If people assume that they have gotten away with something, they should think again. The special agents of the SBA Office of Inspector General are experts on financial crimes that victimize the SBA. We are small but mighty, but we cannot and do not work alone. In the Middle District, our partnership with the FBI allows us to multiply our reach and extend our footprint. Their skills and expertise make arrests, such as the ones highlighted today, possible. The prosecutors of the Middle District possess the legal prowess and dedication to the taxpayer that drive us to do even more than what we thought we could do. So to both agencies, we thank you for your invaluable support as we continue the mission, because we are not done.
Thank you, Jamila. Ladies and gentlemen, you have any questions?
When did you realize within the last 5 years, when did it become clear that these loans were fraudulently obtained?
I think it has been an ongoing process since the end of the COVID crisis. As I noted, we have prosecuted, again, SBA, OIG, and the FBI in excess of 100 people in the Middle District of Florida for these. So the fact that certain people had fraudulently used this application process to take money was very early on. Some of the cases, such as this, the facts unfolded down the line through a variety of different leads from other cases. That's what happened in this case. We came up with the fact that Brias was involved in this, and that whole matter opened the door on her. But let me say this: it was very early on when it became clear to the SBA and the FBI that there was an issue here with these loans.
Early on,
as in 2020, late 22, 2023. I'm not sure exactly. I don't want to mislead you when we had our first prosecution, but I can tell you categorically it was in 2023, and it might have dipped back into 2022. I don't know if you know that, Jamila. How far?
Actually 2021.
Oh, okay, there you go. I
Yes,
stand corrected.
very early.
do you have any sense of how this group came together? Were they working together as an organization trying to defraud the government, or were they just kind of individuals who were indicted together?
Personal relations. There was a lot of personal relationships between them, in some instances, family relationships, some instances, partnership relationships, I mean, in the romantic sense. So there was a lot of contact between and among them, Brias being the center of this. She's the one that received the kickbacks from the other 9 co-conspirators. So, and she was involved with quite a few of them. So it wasn't a business concern where they were working. It was personal.
And this again is just kind of another clarification. I added up all the wire transfers in this one larger indictment. It's only like 175-ish. Can you explain the difference in that amount and the total 2.2 million? How did we get there?
Yeah, those are just counts for those particular wires. What we have, let me say this here, you can have 50 counts for every wire. We don't generally do that. We pick a select group of wires that are indicative of what they were doing over a period of time and lay that out. For punishment circumstances, the money will group totally and not just on the individual accounts. So it's more for efficiency and for getting the trial moving through, but it doesn't affect the sentence. And as I say, all of the monies, the fraudulent amount will group for sentencing.
So are you saying Buer? I don't know if I said the person's name right.
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't catch that.
Are you saying that Cheryl Bueller is like the ringleader?
Brias.
Okay, Brias was the ringleader of this whole thing.
It appears to be that she was the eye of the storm in the sense that she knew these folks. She was involved with some of these folks. She was the individual that was getting the kickbacks from everybody else. The evidence reflects that they were kicking back to her. She wasn't kicking back to them. So she is one of the 10. 9 were kicking back to her.
What does it say about the difficulty of an investigation like this, that it's taken this many several years to come to this point? And also, I imagine there are others going on in the background right now, investigations like this.
Well, let me say this and touch on your last point first. We are not done. And we have, in the not too distant future, in past, talk to you folks about some indictments, and there will be more. This is going to be a continuous process. As Cheryl Davis just noted, this is a 10-year statute of limitations to investigate white-collar crime. There's an enormous amount of money at issue here, obviously in 1.2 trillion. So it's not going to stop. There is a reason why that statute of limitations is 10 years as opposed to 5 years, because generally speaking, in federal criminal law, the statute of limitations is 5 years. When we come to financial fraud, banks, et cetera, it is 10 years. These crimes fall into that category. So it takes time to do it for a variety of different reasons. Not only pulling the applications, pulling the banking records, and then having agents from the SBA and the FBI going out there and talking to people about each individual transaction. As you can see from this indictment, we're talking about a half a dozen, even more businesses that were involved in this. What did they do? When did they do it? When they were active? When were they inactive? When were they dormant? Which company was made up from whole cloth? So it does take some time. The other thing is that this case has not just worked in isolation. We have many number of these. I don't want to talk for Cheryl in here, but she's got many of these going on at the same time. So it's a time-consuming process. Yes.
I was just curious, was there a point that you guys, something tipped you off?
Yes.
Alarm bells,
Yes.
regular check?
Yes. So there's a parallel case in the state involving Miss Brias. And she was putting in claims for her transportation company, and this was under Medicaid that she was putting these claims in for transporting her partner, Mr. Thomas, who there's a wanted circular there for you because he hasn't been arrested yet. And she was putting these claims in for Mr. Thomas taking him to a methadone clinic several hundred miles away. The problem when she was putting these claims in for driving Mr. Thomas to the methadone clinics, he was in jail. And for some of that time, and he had an ankle monitor another part of the time, and obviously he didn't make it while he was in jail, sorry to say, but when the ankle monitor doesn't reflect that kind of transportation. That is a current state case that is going on as we speak. But as a result of that, we got into the SBA with the FBI, got into the larger investigation of Ms. Brias's activity. So that was really the main trigger point on this particular case. That each case is individual, is different, but that's how it triggered here. Yes, sir.
Part of the separate guy, I guess, Neil Bryant.
Can you just get out of the light? I mean, I can't see in the light. I'm sorry.
Is Brian part of the same thing? I guess you have a separate one.
He's a separate one. He's known to them, but there's no indication that he is part of this conspiracy. He has and, he knows some of the people in here individually, but we don't have any evidence connecting them to this conspiracy. And there is no indication that he kicked back any money to Brias. So that's why he has an independent charge.
Can you recoup any of that money that was sent?
Which
Can you recuperate any of that money that was sent?
that we are attempting to do that right now. We have forfeiture provisions in the indictment to do that, and that is ongoing with freeze orders and other type of forfeiture filings that we're making.
Considering you said at the top of this that they used a lot of this money for personal gain, what's the likelihood that you think any of that money will be returned to the federal government?
I'll be very candid with you. It's difficult when you're in fact using those items for using that money for consumer goods and prices. It's a difficult proposition. They still owe the money back, but recouping that money after they have spent it on personal expenses, I'm not going to mislead you. It's going to be difficult to get that get 2.2 million back, but we will attempt to get every dime.
And I wonder, just for you personally, this has got to frustrate you. 2.2 million federal tax dollars going to just someone's life,
Right.
You know, not for the purposes of these protections. What's your message to folks that may have participated in things like this?
Don't rest easy, because this is not going to end, and will be coming, and we'll continue to investigate this. As far as the frustration goes, let me say this, and just to echo what Jamila had to say, the program was designed to help people through a time in our lives that had never happened before, and it had never been, in our remote past. I can't think of a more catastrophic thing. Maybe the flu crisis after the First World War or something of that. But that's what it was designed to do. A well-intentioned item. You as a small business person, you have people on your payroll, you have expenses. We want to make sure you're going to make it through this. The intentions were for the best, to get that money out so you could survive and pay and keep your employees on the payroll. That was what the PPP loans were for, to keep them on the payroll. And the people like this subverted that intent and took something that was designed for the good of the people and turned it into something for their own selfish interest. Is that frustrating? Yes, but that will not deter us from continuing to go after these people.
I know you said that they used older businesses or ones that just weren't running anymore. Were they connected to the people in this?
Oh, yeah, sure. As you can see from the indictment, there are a variety of companies that were getting these types of loan. Some of these loans were completely dormant. Some of these loans were inactive. Companies were dormant or inactive. Some actually were inactive, but if they, in fact, had one employee, when they put the application in for the idle loans, they would say, well, I have 15. And this is my salary expense for all these people to get a PPP loan. They weren't paying any of that.
Were any of these businesses active? Did they take advantage of legitimate businesses that are doing this right way that just got caught up in this, or no?
I don't want to say that categorically that there were none of these businesses that were attempting to do business, but first of all, most of them most of them dormant, inactive, and maybe they were doing a little transportation here and there, but nothing remotely close to what they were alleging in their loan applications vis-a-vis employees, what their costs of operation were, and what their financial needs were to continue an operation.
Now, I know that these kind of loans still come from SBA for hurricane kind of things or other disasters. Is there something in place so that this doesn't happen again?
She's much smarter than us.
Yeah. Yes. So the reason why the government kind of tapped the SBA to do these programs during the COVID-19 pandemic is because basically the SBA administers the same program when there's any kind of natural disaster. So they kind of just tailored it to that. And so in a natural disaster, it's not that same sort of urgency to get the money out today. It is very quick. But because of everything that happened with the COVID-19, it did bring to light some things that the SBA could do better. You know, now there's better software, better resources, better data checking, things like that. So there have been a lot of changes, keeping in mind that this was an anomaly. I mean, this was, you know, an attempt to get people the money almost the same day so that they could pay their staff. So it wasn't the same sort of quality control at that time, but that was on purpose. And so, but to answer your question, yes, many things have changed as the SBA, and they fine-tuned a lot of their system and processes.
And this one wasn't that loans to these people, was like money given to them?
They were all loans. In this particular case, the PPP program, that all of those loans could be forgiven and they would turn into a grant. And so that was what was different. That's not the same thing when there's a physical disaster or hurricane. You always have to pay those back. But for PPP, because of the pandemic, they were 100% forgivable.
As long as you kept your people on the payroll.
As long as everything was true and accurate and authentic.
Okay, folks?
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Again, we don't talk to you folks. Have a good holiday. I mean, I'm not sure we'll see everybody, but it's good to see you again, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.